Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Hey! There he is. Good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. How you doing? You well?
Not bad. It feels like forever since I last saw you. It's
it's only it's only a couple of it's last week, and then we were live. We were together, weren't we? In the flesh.
We were in the.
In
I mean, we weren't live. Can you imagine if we did one of these live? People would turn off after like 10 minutes, and if they didn't, if they were that mental that they wanted to stay to the end, they'd realise that we record so much bollocks that these are so sort of trimmed and edited down that they'd be like, Jesus, never doing that again. I once saw QI being filmed live years and years ago, and it was like a 3 or 4 hour process, which obviously I knew it was going to be. But even when they were repeating stuff, it was entertaining. If people watched us live, No, they would not find it as entertaining, I doubt.
I mean, I have to say, we do know and have had as guests some amazing comics that could do a warm up for us, keep everybody entertained whilst we were talking shit. So,
But I'm not sure that counts as a warm up, mate. That's more of a talking over or instead of us. So
just filling in, really. Yeah.
But anyway, it's lovely to see you. As said,
Andrew,
it hasn't actually been that long. We had a chat last week where we were joined by the very, very entertaining Mr. Tom Neal. If you haven't watched that episode, please go back and watch or listen to it.
Where have you been?
Very much. And then before that, you graced me with your presence in my actual flat. So
in your home.
It was lovely. But no, it's great to be back on the airwaves again this week. And back to, I was going to say back to normal, not back to normal. What I mean is back to our normal format where we don't have a guest. So I guess, have you got some news or some anything else to kick us off with?
A couple of bits and pieces. I've been looking through the trade papers, etc. And one thing struck me. There was an article, and we've mentioned in the past that there have been cutbacks and theatre companies, producers are cutting back and because of energy crisis and money. There was one interesting thing that there are no specifics, but it was just like the National Theatre are cutting down on certain operations due to financial pressures and making budget. Now, they didn't go into specifics. We can't. But if the National Theatre,
if our number one outlet is doesn't bode well. Does it?
Yeah, it only needs the RSC to say, look, we're no longer going to do, it's going to be one man presentations of Shakespeare from now on, mate. When that's it, But it does just show that everybody within the business either has to or is tightening their belts. And again, I was reading articles the other day when the bank went bankrupt and they were saying, if that had been any other institution, they'd have shut it down. This government would shut it down. They get rid of a theatre, but they've kept the bank going. So, but that's by the by. That's a little bit of my own soapbox, but there we go.
Yeah, but so is it all good news everywhere, or do we have to sadly recognize?
We do have to take our hats off and remember the great Topo, who passed away a few days ago.
Fiddler on the Roof himself.
Fiddler on the Roof himself. Tevye, if anyone could be said to have created a role, there's no, we say, you great actors who played Hamlet, but there are many, many actors, and you don't all, but I think if you ever have to play, and I've heard a couple of people talk about Tevye and the role, but they said there's a shadow over your shoulder. There is, the great man is still alive. It was still performing it until later in life. He played the role 3,500 times all around the world, as well as creating that character on screen. And I believe he was only in his 30s when he was, he said, he was interviewed and said, I don't know how they cast me because I spoke very bad English. I was only in my 30s. And there I am creating one of the great roles of musical theatre.
Yeah.
And certainly, he was identified with it all his life. And it was absolutely brilliant. It was a brilliant performance.
An icon, I think you can probably.
An icon. I think you could probably, we both go, don't like that word, but I think it probably was an iconic performance because no one's done it as well.
No, it was always, what do they say? It's the yardstick, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. But,
yeah. So, yeah, well, a raised glass and a sip of the drink to.
There we go. I tip my tea to you, Topple.
Very talented man. So
I am Topple. Yeah.
But yes. Now, I guess, and this is a bit of a tenuous link, but you're talking about a sad death. I would very briefly, because if we don't say briefly, then we could go on about it for quite some time. But I would briefly like to raise awareness for a possible positive death. Now, bear with me because this seems a bit weird.
I know you like your segues. This is a bit tenuous, but I'm running with it, Sam.
Yeah. Please don't switch off your podcast apps or your YouTube or whatever. No. So there's been a thing in the news recently, and it's not directly linked with us technically because
what could that be?
Yes. Because it's not necessarily the performance side of media, but it's certainly relating to entertainment and should we say freedom of speech, which I think I think
it's freedom of speech. I think we have to
rely on quite heavily because we like to talk about and give views on things. So I am going to draw awareness to the fact that hopefully there will be the death of some outdated, incorrect and inappropriate policies within the BBC. Now, we'll probably get people messaging us now and telling us that we're idiots for supporting my favourite crisp representative. But although he hasn't done crisp adverts for a long time, has he?
Not for a while. No.
Obviously, we're talking about Gary Lineker and the fact that he was. I was going to say sacked. He wasn't sacked. He was. What's the word?
Suspended.
Suspended. Thank you. It began with S. I was close, and it referred to not doing your job. So he was suspended, which obviously has now been reversed, and they have sort of recognised that they were in the wrong. But I have to say that as much as it was an awful situation, the unity and the support of his fellow broadcasters and people involved. I mean, I don't think any Premier League teams, for example, allowed the BBC to interview any players post match, and commentators were not involved. And anyone that is a football fan and watched Match of the Day will know what a pile of shite it was without any pundits and stuff. So so here's to hopefully what will be the first death of many outdated policies that are corrupting the BBC and affecting, having a negative effect on people's freedom of speech and ability.
Well, it was. I mean, it's interesting, I agree. I mean, it is freedom of speech, and it is censorship in its way. But I mean, also, it was just confusion. It's like there's no clarity. It's like where if you knew where you stand, and I don't think he didn't. It wasn't as if Gary Lineker was said, so here's a 2-1 to Everton. Oh, by the way, blah. He didn't use his platform to make the statement, and he should be entitled to his point of view. And wherever you stand on his politics, on the issue that he was talking about, it's like I defend his right to say it, whether I agree or not. I can't remember who the actual quote now is, but I disagree with you, but I support your right to have your opinion. And I think we should. That's what we're talking about here.
Of course.
And also on, it's like newsreaders aren't allowed to say that sort of thing because newsreaders are there reading the news and reading about all sides of a political divide or whatever. And in whatever countries and wherever, and you can see the clarity there. You can see, well, okay, I understand you're probably not going to be able to air your opinions wherever because you've got to be seen as impartial.
Yeah.
Now, I think the grey area is, well, when is Gary Lineker not Gary Lineker, the football pundit?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like if no one's interested in my point of view,
correct.
Ordinarily, so I'm allowed. Well, they're not. I mean, I'm. But if I was on stage in a show and I suddenly went, by the way, I disagree with this, then my employee would rightly go, you can't do that.
You're you're manipulating a situation, aren't you?
You're using your platform.
Yeah.
But I mean, at no point did the BBC say to Gary Lineker, you can't say this. I would, as you say, outdated and outmoded guidelines. I would venture to suggest the BBC have probably not overlooked those guidelines since, Facebook first, raised its face.
Sort of stuff. Yeah.
Which is well out of date. And given the fact he has, I think he's upwards of 8 million Twitter followers, he does have people that are interested in him and like him, So, but that's, everyone can have that platform. You or I could through friends manipulating the numbers, popularity. If we got a big film role or something, wallop, we would garner that number of followers quite quickly, I would say, because people are suddenly interested in somebody who's interesting. So, as you say, let's hope the BBC sort themselves out, because, it was, and I think the quote is, he is going to follow, he's sorry for the potential confusion caused by the grey areas of the BBC social media guidance, but he will abide by the editorial guidelines as they exist. So, there you
basically go. Up until they make a change, he's
got no. But also, if he wants his job back, he's got no bloody choice. And if they want him back on the telly, they've got no choice. So, it's like sort your put your house in order, BBC.
Yes, it's not just a case of if they want him back; it was if they wanted anyone, because
that is very true. That is very true. But I mean, it's It was. I mean, it's good to see people. I mean, like you said, football's a teamwork, and he has a team around him. And unfortunately, the BBC, didn't support the teamwork and didn't. Hey ho, But I mean, but the thing is, it's a big corporation like that. They're gonna get knocked down. I mean, I have lots of soapbox opinions about the BBC and the government and etc. But that is not for this program. That's another program. That's another one of our shows. We'll get onto that. But I mean, there are loads of little things like that that irk me and that I don't like. But
didn't we start this podcast because you didn't like something, basically? No, I mean, we started.
No, it was to air our opinions and hopefully garner other people's opinions, and we are entitled to them.
Of course we are, and at no point do we state that what we say or what we think is right and the only way to go. But we are giving our experience and our opinions on things so people can consider them. We don't, just because I say something doesn't mean that everyone that listens to this has to believe me. It's highly likely that very few of them do. I mean, there are a lot of times, mate, where I'm not sure I believe what I say. So
I agree with you. I totally agree with it. Yeah. But I mean, I should say, well, actually, you say it's something to fingers crossed that's going to be put to death and got rid of. Here's a thing then. Here's a little thing.
Go on.
I'm not going to say that we have reached a couple of milestones recently.
Yes.
And we are now sitting here on episode 101.
101.
Yeah. I see.
Yes.
See? Now there are little things that we have little niggles about and maybe we haven't discussed before. Now I'm wondering whether is there something you would like to not episode 101, but is there something you'd like to throw into room 101? Is there any little niggle about the business? I'm talking about the business.
Yeah. What a question that is.
Yeah. Is there any
question? Amazing. Look at that. And just like that, we're off the topic of football and the BBC, and we're back to something semi-relevant. Who would have known?
Yeah. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
So what you're asking is if there was a room 101 for the worst bits about being an actor or being involved in this industry, something that I could permanently change.
or something that just gets your goat that you find aggravating. Because let's face it, there's loads of shit I find aggravating.
Yes, there is. Yes. Right. And this, and we're going to get people arguing. So be it. Freedom of speech, people. Remember that. Right. So I'll tell you something that really, really, really irritates me, and I want to put it in the bin, put it into room 101, is doing an audition and not hearing back.
Ooh.
So I'm not talking about doing an audition and then being told, no, you haven't got the part, or being told that, sorry, we don't think you were right for it, or you were shit. I am talking about, sadly, the 99%, and you'll agree here, and anyone...
Oh, I'm nodding.
Will agree. The 99 times out of 100 where you do an audition or do a casting or a self-tape or whatever, and that's the last you ever hear. I mean, most of the time, you don't even get a confirmation that it's been received when you send
No.
But if I could put anything in my entire career and everything, all my experiences and whatever, into Room 101, it's the not even getting a simple email that just says, thanks, but no thanks. There. How about that one for you, Drew?
I would like to extend that. I would like to extend that to something that I believe is changing now. It's nearly in Room 101, and I want to give it a shove into Room 101. But it is, and any actors that sit in there will know you have been penciled for the role. You know, and you either get, if you've applied for it yourself and you do an audition, nowadays a self-tape, something comes back and they're very interested and they say, you've been penciled. In other words, your name has been written down in pencil, which means they can always rub it out if they don't want you.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that so much. It's being penciled is great because you think, okay, I'm being considered for this role. That's wonderful. I've done a fairly decent job, and that's quite nice. But then, until very, very recently, and still some there are occasions, you don't bloody hear.
No.
And there's a spurious little thing comes through, and about 10 days after you've decided you haven't got the job anyway, they go, all pencils on blah blah job are now released. And I sit there and go, well, that's pretty bleeding obvious because it's 2 weeks ago and you filmed it now anyway.
No shit, Sherlock. Yeah,
exactly.
Do you know,
it's so frustrating.
The being penciled is quite common in extra work, isn't it? When you do
adverts,
whatever it is. But have they not? And I could be wrong here because I've done very little of it. I do sometimes do like stand-in work or stunt work, which is slightly different. But not only have you got penciled, but you've got heavy pencil, and I do believe there is a very heavy pencil.
Yeah, what? I know, but I mean, it's hysterical because I mean, and you like, I mean, if you're me, I think, oh, that's really good. That's kind of, and you get your hopes up, and you, great, you know, and then you hear, you haven't got it, and then you hear possibly something else that really. All within this subject. It's all going to go into Room 101 in a minute. But the other thing is the casting director / producer have gone another way. In other words, saying, they've changed their bleeding minds. Rub your pencil out. You can go and do something else. But, originally they were casting an actor like me, older, 5'6", character actor. Yeah, all right. I see you. For anyone who's not watching this on YouTube, A, why not? And B, you should see Sam's face then. But they've gone another way. They don't want who you are, which means now they've probably gone for a woman who is 6 foot and young and gorgeous. They've changed it completely. But I mean, all those things. Let's wrap them up into a nice, neat little parcel, and And as a what's the word, like to counter that, just to say there are some fabulous casting teams out there who will give you superb feedback and go, absolutely, we're very sorry. Maybe they will use the wording that the director has gone another way because they've decided that actually to make the role fit whatever they're doing, it needed to be someone slightly younger, someone slightly rougher, rough and red, whatever. still
But
bloody annoying. But yeah,
of course it is,
and it
and
has
we
to be
deal-
said that
Mm.
I do believe now, because actors were kept waiting, that there has been an agreement that, you know, pencils and heavy pencils and doubly heavy I think now they are working to get that cut down so that actors aren't waiting. Because very often, you know, you get offered or you're penciled for something, you think, well, should I do that other job, or can I start thinking about maybe applying for that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they realize now that yes, they want to keep their options open and keep actors who are good for the part, you know, in it being considered. However, there are actors sitting there going, I've been offered something else. Can I do it? You know, so you know,
but you're
I believe
reluctant
I believe that
practice, aren't you?
yeah, I believe that practice now is being corrected. So
it is getting
even
better.
though I hate it, even though it's going in room 101, it's ending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can put it in room 101 and it won't matter because people won't be doing it anyway. So
no, exactly.
But yeah, I have had some fantastic feedback from people who've said very sorry, but or they've gone, you were great, but we just happened to go with this, or there was someone here who, and there are times where you go, do you know what? I couldn't ever have competed with that. Like, so I can't be too disappointed. You're always disappointed when you don't get something, because you only go for stuff that you actually want to do. That's how it works. You don't put yourself forward for something if you're not interested in doing it. However, to get that little bit of feedback saying, very sorry, but however, we think you were brilliant for this, and we'll keep you in mind, or it's just a little. Do you know what it is? It's having closure. It's not hanging over you. And particularly in the same in with the pencils, like as you say, like you then can move on or book other stuff, or say that is going in room 101. That is my top of the pile. In it goes. Off.
Boom.
There we go. But go on then. You must have one, seeing as you sort of clicked on this idea.
Well, I have. I mean, up until very recently, and pre-COVID, I did lots of touring and lots of shows. And there's one thing that, and it happens thankfully rarely, and this sounds really niggly and a bit, but it is my working environment. And it's, you know, you get to a theatre and there are, and again, it happens rarely, but I've experienced it quite a bit, is dirty theatres and dirty dressing rooms. Now, I know that after the advent, the arrival of the unwelcome guests, and theatres have got better because they've had to, because of, you know, just keeping the place clean.
Yeah.
But there were, and I still come across it, and also when you work in different venues that sometimes are not quite kitted up to be a theatre venue, maybe you can go, okay, you know, but if you're going to call this a dressing room, at least make it habitable.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, there was one theatre, they will remain nameless, but a beautiful theatre. And I've toured there 2 or 3 times, and I remember walking back, and it's an old theatre, but it's a beautiful. But backstage, walked down backstage, and it was like, this place hasn't been swept, or it's all been swept to the back of the theatre, which is the bit that I've got to trot through in my costume and my clean shoes backstage. That, you know, and I remember touring there a few years back, and there were fag packets in the corner, and I'm thinking, now it's about God knows how many years since you've been allowed to smoke in a building, let alone backstage. So how long have these been here? And you haven't just brushed into the corner. But I mean, it's you know, it's apart from being unhygienic and uncomfortable, it's probably very unsafe in this day and age of, you know, health and safety.
It's interesting you go on to say, because I was going to add to not just untidy and like very unwelcoming and dirty backstage or theatres, but I was going to go along the unsafe, because unfortunately, and I'm well aware that money is an issue for everyone, and theatres are always running on low funds, like nothing ever seems to be. But I have worked in some places where you go, those plugs and those wires there, I'm just going to go and check that the fire alarm systems are working. Just because I've got a bit of a hunch, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's thankfully, as you say, it's very, very rare. But there are a few places out there, again, shall remain nameless, that you just think, God, I'm taking my life in my own hands here, just stepping on that stage. I mean, I don't know, it could well have termites. Am I going to step on a plank and go right through the stage, or is the set going to collapse behind me, and then the light's going to short, and God knows what else? So it isn't very often, but and actually, you've been in the business for about 400 years, so you will have seen the rise and fall very much more, whereas I'm relatively new, so I won't have experienced it quite so much. But I'm sure there have been horror stories and things that...
I worked in a theatre once, again will remain nameless, but it was the backstage wasn't necessarily untied or anything like that, it was, but all sort of, there were fuse boxes on walls, cupboards were open and everything. And I did happen to cast my eye up to the fuse box and noticed that there was an inch nail as a fuse whacked in the fuse. Yes, it was acting as a fuse. And I thought, well, yeah, it was an inch long nail. And I'm not, I know nothing about, I can change a plug and change a light bulb, but I'm not an electrician. But even I know that maybe that wasn't the safest option.
No, I don't think the word safe was ever considered in that.
Not in that instance, no. I think it was just shit. We haven't got any fuses. I think it's one of those occasions when something has gone. Someone's like, that'll work. Bung it in, and it's never been changed for God knows how many years. No one's ever gone back and gone, "Oh, maybe we should take that out." But
don't fix what ain't broke. Well, you will be when it.
Well, you will be. Yeah. But I found that highly amusing.
So we've got not hearing back or zero response as first thing to go into room 101, and it is shortly followed by unsafe, unhygienic, unclean, and unkempt. There's a good word.
Unkempt.
Unkempt.
Unkempt. I like that.
Yeah. I've got one more that is maybe. Have we talked about it before? We probably have. And in fact, I'm sure at least one or two guests have mentioned it at some point as well. And it is something that, again, anyone in the industry will just sit there going, oh, and nod. And when you speak to someone new, be that a distant relative or a new friend or a partner of someone... How do these words feel to you, Drew? Ready? So what do you do for a living?
I'm an actor.
I'm an actor, yeah. So what have I seen you in? You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You're an actor, therefore you must have been on my television within my memory and stood out so I can go, yes, of course. You must have been in something that is so mainstream that every person... So you must have been in one of the soap operas then, because what they do is EastEnders and Coronation Street and Emmerdale and Hollyoaks and all of those programs. What they do is they get the phone book, which I'm not sure even exists anymore, but bear with. And they start at the top. And they just go through every person and put them in. They call, are you an actor? Yes. Okay. In you come. It's your turn, because everyone gets to go. Oh, what's the Family Guy? Grinds my gears. Peter Griffin said in Family Guy.
I mean, it's always. I mean, I've had it I've had it quite a few times, but it always amazes me because then your reply is, well, what have you done? And well, I did that years ago. So what do you do then? Well, I work in the theatre and I do occasional films and I do audio work and radio. Oh, all right. And that's when the conversation dies then, because it's like, so you patently don't go to the theatre and obviously you consider anything that isn't on the television to not be acting.
Yeah, exactly. But and I must again sort of caveat and say it's very rare. Most people are hugely supportive and go, that's fantastic. And you do get asked that question sometimes in the right way, sort of like, oh yeah, what are you doing at the moment? Is there anything I might have seen you in, or is there anything that I would know that you've been in? That's a slightly better way. Go on.
The other one that so I got a little sidebar that's going to go in 101 as well. Happens very rarely now, But that phrase, "Oh, you're resting," then the old-fashioned phrase, "You're resting." Since when has an actor ever bloody rested? Certainly not nowadays. If you're not working, we're not paid that much when we are working. When we're not working, we're paid even less. So we're bloody well grafting, mate.
Yeah.
The easy part is when you're working. When you're not working, so many other people are, so many of us have to do other things. So yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. And as said, like we sound like we're being super grumpy and moaning and whatever. Actually, 99% of the time, everything is great and brilliant. These are just little things that sprang to mind that would make the job slightly easier if they weren't there. But but no, a couple. Go on. Oh, are you gonna?
No, I was going to say I must also, and we must thank. We must, because we've used Room 101. I must thank the enormously talented Frank Skinner for letting us borrow this for this episode. I mean, he's he's good. Yeah.
If he's watching, I'll be very much surprised. But if he is, cheers, Frank.
I'm very much surprised. But but that was it's just
and equally, no copyright infringement was intended. I'm sure the phrase came about before the program anyway. It's based on a novel, isn't it? Room 101.
1984, George Orwell. Room 101.
Yeah, there we go. So if Mr. Orwell's watching, which I very much doubt,
God, that'd be a bloody miracle.
Exactly. But anyway, do you know what, mate? I think we've put enough in Room 101.
Yeah, we have.
I just want to very briefly we've gone a bit grumpy old men having a moan, but what I want to do is put a little bit of an upward lift just to sort of finish off with, because not only are things going to be less grumpy next week because we've got a fantastic guest joining us. Another guest. We're so lucky.
We are lucky.
Very excited for this one. But not going to say any more at this stage. Just very, very different to last week's wonderful guest. But again, just, brilliant.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think we should probably briefly mention is, of course, the beginning of this week, or was it the end of last week? No, the beginning of this week was the Oscars ceremony.
Yes.
And huge congratulations to anyone that won an Oscar, particularly Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is how you say it, is it?
Yes,
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All at once.
Which got, I think, seven awards in the end across the Best Picture, actors and supporting actors and actresses and supporting actresses. Just fabulous film with amazing people involved in that. So huge congratulations to anyone that won. But I wanted to recognise one person in particular. And I would. This is where the sort of putting an upward lift and the smile that came to my face. So, and now I'll probably pronounce his name wrong, which seems like a weird thing when I want to particularly recognise him. But Ke Huy Quan or Ke Huy Quan.
What an inspirational story!
The man is amazing. So he is a beloved actor for many people without them realizing it. So he, as a child, was in probably two of my favorite films of all time. He was in The Goonies as Data. He played Data. And he was also in Indiana Jones and played Short Round.
Short Round, yeah.
And there is, and I just tell people, if you get 10 seconds, just go and look it up, because when he was given the Oscar, not only did he give a fabulous speech and talked about how amazing his journey has been, and how, because he stopped acting for a long time and then came back into it.
Yeah.
But he was very emotional and it was brilliant. But the Oscar was given to him by Indiana Jones himself, by Harrison Ford. And there is a fantastic picture, and I implore you, go onto Google and look it up and search for Ke Huy Quan and Harrison Ford, and there it's got a picture of them embracing as part of Indiana Jones when he is a small child, and obviously Harrison Ford was considerably younger. And then there's an updated version of them embracing now. And it's just so incredibly endearing and wonderful. And just everyone that's won an Oscar, and particularly anyone involved in Everything Everywhere all at once. And equally, All Quiet on the Western Front, which won a couple, I think, which
Yeah.
has got fantastic reviews.
Beautiful film.
And another one, very quick mention, Brendan Fraser. He seems to be the nicest man. Like anything he ever does or anything he ever talks about, and just brilliant. So congratulations to all of them.
That was a bit of a comeback story as well, because he was shut out of Hollywood for a wee while, and he's worked his way back. I mean, and it's a nice thing, and I think, as you say, kudos to everyone. But for people that are making a bit of a comeback, never give up, because talent will out.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And equally brilliant to see Jamie Lee Curtis win an Oscar, but also get so excited that her fellow performers were also winning them, and the film she was about. So Michelle Yeoh, who won Best Actress in a Leading Role for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jamie Lee Curtis's face when she won that was almost better than when Jamie Lee Curtis got her own.
I know.
Superb.
I love the gesture she made to her mum and dad up in heaven, going, "We won an Oscar," because her mum and dad never did. You know, and it was just like, yes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Curtis, one of the most talented, glamorous actors there was, and never got a bloody Oscar.
No, madness.
But there you go. She's put it right. It right.
So congratulations to everyone that won an Oscar, and that includes, as we've mentioned before, all those people that don't necessarily get to go up on the stage and do that. So the people involved in makeup and sound and all those sorts of things as well. Congratulations to anyone who was recognised, but equally congratulations to anyone that was nominated or recognised in any way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just it is the pinnacle of awards in the film world, and just hugely deserved, and some fabulous stories there of the against all odds and underdogs and things like that. So yeah, there's a much more sort of positive way to end, rather than us pissing and moaning and going, well, I wish things were easier. But do you know what? All I've done this episode is made faces and got very agitated.
Well, there has been a little bit of gurning and mugging going on, but you know, every now and again you have to break out of that, that gorgeous models look you have, and prove that you are human, mate.
Yeah. I mean,
you're just one of the ordinary people like me.
We talked about censorship earlier, and I think there'll be people wishing that my face had been censored at certain times if they're watching on YouTube. But aside from that, mate, I'm going to raise a glass to cheers to those horrible things we put in Room 101. Cheers to updating policies that should never really have censored people in the first place. Cheers to all those who have won awards, been recognised, or have even just been nominated. Cheers to you as well, mate.
I was going to say, mate, cheers to you, buddy.
Should we get a guest on next week so we can't moan and I can't make so many faces?
Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you soon, buddy. Thanks, everyone.
See you, mate. Cheers, mate.
Cheers all. See you later. Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.